The days are longer, the calendar is filling up, and I want to feel as good as this beautiful summer weather. That's why I've been loving Groons. It's one daily pack of gummies that covers my greens, vitamins, and minerals, and even has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber. So I don't need to juggle a complicated wellness routine on top of everything else. They taste amazing. They're easy to toss in my bag on the go. Plus, they're vegan, gluten-free, and HSA, FSA eligible for reimbursement. Save up to 52% off with promo code podcast at gruns.co. That's code podcast at gruns.co.
Welcome back to TalkNorth.com. Thank you for listening. If you can, please download before you listen. It helps our business. I'd also like to thank our producer, Brandon Morton, and let you know if you'd like to sponsor this program or any of the programs on the network. You can reach me at jsouhan47@gmail.com.
I'm going to be on my best behavior tonight, little man.
I hate it when you call me little man. I think that was the beginning of the show, by the way.
Yeah.
One of our typical polished openings. Michael Russo just talking to random people. To our best fan here. This is the Russo-Souhan Show. He's Michael Russo from The Athletic. I'm Jim Souhan from the Star Tribune. We are live at Tin Shed in Savage, tinshedmn.com. They've been hosting and sponsoring the program for a long time. We appreciate you all coming out on such a cold night. We'll tell you more about Tin Shed a little bit later. Some new business to take care of. New sponsor, Gray Duck Vodka. That is Chad Greenway's vodka company. Minnesota. They're also over at the Minnesota Sports Awards tonight. They're everywhere. We appreciate them jumping on board with us. We'll tell you more about their business a little bit later. We also have a new show on the program, our Go for Sports show, hosted by Marcus Fuller and Ryan James. We're going to be expanding a lot. You might even notice we have new equipment. Brandon has new stuff. The network is taking off. We appreciate everybody who's helped us get to this point, including our other sponsors for this program, Twill in the Edina Galleria, FixologyRepair.com, Tony Hoagland, your State Farm agent in Champlin. And again, check out tinshedmn.com for if you live in the Savage area, if you're ever down here, drop by, have some food, check out a game on the big screen, check out everything they have to offer. All right, so we've been doing this for a long time. We've covered 1 million games each. And a lot of times you go to the arena, you go to anywhere you're going to cover a game, and you get done and you go, man, nothing really happened. I still got to write something, nothing. Then there are nights like last night. Great ceremony for Michael Koivu. Mm-hmm. Guys flying from all over the world to visit with him, including some great personalities. The team lays an egg at first, rallies. They end up getting a point but losing. And then in the postgame, Zach Parise says, man, we should be looking at the 4-on-3 a little bit more. And then I asked Boudreau about that in the postgame. And here's what happens. So Boudreau's up there. It's pretty obvious nobody else is going to ask that question. So I feel like, all right, I'll do it. Bruce, what do you think about Zach Parise saying you kind of need to work on the 4-on-3 a little bit more? Do players of that experience really need to work on something like that? And Bruce, I can't do it. I can't imitate what Bruce did because my eyes might get stuck back there and then I'd have to have surgery or something. I mean, Bruce's eyes went about back here. And he did this, and he breathed heavily. He looked at Michael like, did he really say that?
Yeah,
and Russo goes,
yep. He definitely, he was, the roll of the eyes was right at me. Like, it was like, are you kidding me roll of the eyes? And then he was looking for affirmation. And I was just like, yeah, I mean, he said it. And so then he tried to be politically correct, but then he definitely took some pot shots and things like that. It wouldn't be such a big deal if this just wasn't sort of a trend here. I mean, this is the third or fourth time that there have been little subtle things like that. So it is interesting because the Wild, if they don't practice the 4-on-3, they've only had one this year. I looked it up today, and they scored a goal on it. So, I am on the one thing on this, like I get what Zach's saying, but I also get what Bruce is saying. It's 2 minutes, 4-3. He's putting 4 guys that should know how to win a hockey game in overtime on a 4-3. Go do it. And then one guy's without a stick, too. So I didn't like the personnel to start the 4-3 to begin with. I think they should have gone with 3 forwards and a goal and a defenseman. I would have gone with either Dumba or Hunt. I would have even maybe considered Hunt last night because Dumba was having an awful game and he's in a string of bad games, and it's not like he's scoring goals. And then I would have thrown out somebody like a Fiala or Zuccarello out there. Fiala or a I get why Zuccarello's out there, but a Fiala or a Zucker too. I just think that they could have used a third forward out there, and I thought that Ryan Suter was way too deliberate on the 4-3. He looked off Dumba a couple times out there, which was kind of bizarre. And we're starting to see what the injury of Jared Spurgeon has done to Dumba and Suter right now. They're because the Wild are short-handed back there. They're really starting to overplay those two. And the last 3 games, they've really started to struggle a bit here. So we'll see if today's day of rest does something for them, and we'll see a little more energetic 2 players tomorrow.
As we expand the network, it might be helpful if you follow us on Twitter at Talk North Pod. You'll see new shows. You'll see the releases of this show as soon as they come out. I want to thank Brandon Morton, our longtime producer, and our next live show here at Tin Shed, 7 p.m. December 30th. It'll be fun. It'll be kind of our holiday show. So Michael will wear something really creative, I promise. Of course, should we talk more about the Parise thing, or is it just kind of a one-off, that's all there is to it?
Yeah, I mean, my guess is that they'll have another meeting tomorrow, Parise and Boudreau, on a string of meetings after these type of things that have happened this year. And it's just, it is what it is there. You asked the question, Bruce reacted, it made it a story, there's no doubt about it. But it also, the other thing here is that the team's been playing well, Zach's been playing great.
Yeah.
I just think sometimes that the players do need to bring some more accountability. You can be frustrated with the coaching all you want, but you were the 4 guys on the ice that didn't score the goal. And it's been the same thing for years. I mean, they're just a deliberate-looking power play. And whether you think they should take time in practice to practice a situation that happens very rarely in a game more as a player, that's one thing. But the reality is that those 4 guys just did a really poor job that game. And they're 4 guys that have thousands of games of NHL experience, make a ton of money, and should have the ability to score a goal whether you practice or not in a hockey situation when you're up a man in overtime in a situation where you need the point. Like we could talk all we want that the Wild are playing better and have points in 12 of 13 games and 10 straight games at home. But you know what? By getting one of their last 4 points in a span of 4 days, they went from a playoff spot to going into tonight's action being 4 points out of a playoff spot. That's what just taking your foot off the gas for 3 days does in the NHL. So all that good vibe that happened in Tampa after that huge win to get back in a playoff spot has been ruined the last 3 days by laying an egg at home last night. Luckily, they got a point, and by getting blown out in Carolina. So there's a situation. You're playing a conference team. You got 4 go-to guys on the ice. I think Zach would have been a little stung if all of a sudden he was on the bench last night and didn't get to play in that situation. Sometimes you just, as a player, you just got to look in the mirror and say, you know what, I didn't get it done. And, and I think everybody knows how much I respect Zach and all that. So I don't think it's a huge deal. But in this case, I do think that this was, the other cases I saw Zach's point last night. It was sort of came out of the blue and unsolicited, and it was a little surprising. And you asked the question, and it certainly became a storyline afterwards because I think Bruce was stunned by it. And his response was so real. His response was like, for the first time, it was a real response by Boudreau there, and obviously he wasn't happy. And my guess is that Zach's going to hear about it tomorrow. No doubt about it.
Brian from Tin Shed gives away his tickets to promote this place and our show. If you'd like to win wild tickets, come on up, fill that out, drop it in the fishbowl. You have to be here to register for it. You also have to be here to win the tickets. And we do appreciate everybody comes out, and it's a great thing Brian is doing, again, to promote Tin Shed and TalkNorth.com. Remind you about Tin Shed. TinShedMN.com is the website. As you can tell from this room, they have a lot of parties. It's a great place to bring kids or big groups, sports teams, company holiday parties. They have jumbo pretzels, new additions to the menu, jumbo pretzels, pot pies, 2 new burgers, a lot more. They have tons of deals, and they have coupons on their website. Go to the website, see what their 2-for-1 deals are, their beer deals, their pizza deals, and they have coupons that you can bring in and get great deals on what is already very reasonably priced food. Tin Shed in Savage, TinShedMN.com. The reason it's so interesting to me is it feels like ever since Parise and Suter arrived, they have had more than a normal player's influence on what happens with the organization. I still remember people telling me, not you, but other people in the organization telling me that, Parise would want to dictate when he first got here where and when they practiced even. We know that Suter's friends with Leopold. Do you think that bothers other people in the organization, or do you think it's...
I haven't seen that this year at all. I do think that, if that exists, I never heard the Parise thing with practice and all that stuff.
I heard that from a couple people.
But, look, I think this year... it hasn't been at all an issue. The one thing that I will say about this season that has been really impressive to me is that this team is getting along really well. Everybody's buying into everything. And it's genuine. So, I do think that Billy Guerin and Craig Leopold meeting with a lot of these players before the season and giving them a voice into what's been the issues here and trying to get everybody to play as a team and not individuals has worked in a large way. And so, I just think last night was, and the reason why I'm also hesitant is I don't want Zach to feel like he should be muzzled in post games as well. To me, that's why I don't want to make a huge deal of it, because Zach's entitled to his opinion, and I think it's refreshing that he says it. In this case, I think we have just the right to agree or disagree, and I just think on this one, the timing was suspect just because, again, you're 4 really good players, you got 2 minutes, you're up by 1 man in overtime, one guy breaks a stick for 30 seconds, and 4 great players couldn't get it done. That's on them, not the coaches. It doesn't matter if they've practiced it a ton or not. I can tell you the Wild practice a lot of situations a ton in practice and stink at it. So the reality is that it comes down to execution as the players. So I don't think that this is anything to do with Suter or Parise. Maybe it's not staying in their lane or whatever.
Save that sentence, Brandon. That was pretty good. So let's talk about Koivu now. Really cool ceremony. I thought it was handled very well. It was kind of subtle and understated, but still made the point.
It was probably very Mikko Koivu.
It was perfect for Mikko.
Subtle and understated.
And they had the right people there, and they had people flying in from Europe. So I'll just ask you your reaction to it.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I think it's awesome the way the Wild do stuff like this. We saw it even just with every type of when Niederreiter came here and they did his tribute. The Wild do this stuff first class. They're a first class organization, and so I give them a lot of credit. I would give everybody behind the scenes that put this together, and it was a ton of work to do it. It's a big financial thing too. It's Craig Leopold and the organization that's paying for these everybody to fly over in from Vienna.
And I'm sure they're first class international flights. Yeah,
exactly. And so. I just thought it was really classy. I thought the video tribute was really well done. I thought these guys coming on the ice and hiding them for a couple days was really well done. And for the Koivu haters out there that just think that this guy is a disrespected leader in the locker room, I just think that you got to read the stories that have been written about him, my 3 in the last couple of weeks, and what these guys heartfelt said. These are not normal quotes said about a human being. He is immensely respected in that locker room. Now, does he lose his mind at times and become uptight? Even Granlund said it during the thing yesterday. He's a very unique individual. He's stubborn in a way that he believes things should be done a certain way and wants them done a certain way. And he's a very strong personality that way. But when it comes down to it, he's extremely respected by his teammates. And that to me is the bottom line there. So it was just really neat. I think it says a lot that a guy like Gabrick, who's from Slovakia, who was a superstar on this team when Miko first started even, is willing to fly in here because he has such respect for this guy. Brodziak, Schultz, I think we all know how much they love him. Those stories have been written a gazillion times. Backstrom as well. Ralston was really bummed he was coming, and something came up in his life that he had to stop, that he couldn't come anymore. But as of 5 days ago, he was on his way here. So it was just a neat thing that they did for him. I thought Miko was genuinely touched as Miko, he held it together. I was very interested if he was going to start crying on the ice, because you just can't imagine Miko with tears in his eyes. And the guy's got a heart of stone, man. He just he kept it together. It was pretty funny. And then I know they had a really good time in the after party yesterday.
And, guys like Schultz and Backstrom and Brodziak are some of the best people who have played for this organization. Yeah. The fact that those are the people who want to be here for him speaks well of them.
Yeah, also. Exactly. I did a podcast with Backstrom the other day on Monday, and it's funny, a couple of my friends of mine, like, how come you picked the Finnish guy with a thick accent to do a podcast with and not Nick Schultz or Kyle Brodziak or Gabby or somebody? And it's just because I have always found Nicholas Backstrom to be one of the most interesting, fascinating people I've ever covered. If you listen through his accent, this is one intelligent person. Yep. And I used to it was my favorite thing in the world. There's something about goalies I've always, whether it was Luongo down in Florida or Mikey Vernon or Beezer or here, whether it was Doobie or Stalock or Backstrom, I just have always loved shooting the breeze with goaltenders. But he's one that, from the first time, I even brought it up on the podcast with him, and my first time I ever went out with him away from the rink, I did an interview. They were practicing at Parade Ice Garden, and I said, hey, nobody knows who you were. Last year you led the league in goals against average and save percentage, but yet nobody knows you. Can we go to lunch and do a story? And he's like, yeah, where do you want to go? And I said, let's go to the International Market Square, which is right around the corner from Parade, to that D'Amico and Sons in there. It's just this, it's like their unique D'Amico where it's like a salad bar and it's in the middle of this, industrial building of businesses and things like that. So I sit down with him, and I was just blown away even then when his English wasn't great, how smart he was. And from that point on, I've just loved talking to him. So it was really cool sitting down with him. It was always good talking to guys like Schultz and Brodziak. Schultz is that person I've always told you. For as long as I covered the Minnesota Wild and Nick Schultz was on it, you felt like he was an ally, like if you walked in that locker room and you knew you've ticked off about 10 people with things that you wrote that day, you'd walk in that locker room and you could go by Nick Schultz's stall and you just knew you had a friendly face there to just kind of use as a security blanket while 15 other players were staring daggers at you, wanting to kick you out of the room. And so, the guy's unbelievable. Last night I go to Suite 55 appropriately, which was the suite that their pre-party was in during the game. And I go in there, and Jared Spurgeon is in there, and Jared. So I call Nick to go talk to him, and Jared and Nick and Ryan Carter and me and Parrish are all just shooting the breeze by the door. And if you remember, I've told this story a gazillion times, but at the Matt Cullen 1,000 game party, it was at the Downtowner in downtown St. Paul. And after the Wild game that night, I happened to go to Tom Reed's just to go hang out with a couple of the sports writers, and it's the same parking lot. So I'm backing out of my space at like midnight to drive home, and I'm like, boom, hit something, and I'm like, oh no, and I get out and hey Father, how are you? I get out and I look, and the first thing I see is a Porsche. So right away, I know there are 1,000 game parties going on across the street. So I'm like, oh no, that I just know that I hit it. And this is I don't know if you remember this time when Matt Cullen played his 1,000th game, but they were just they either came back or were going on their father-son trip that they got destroyed on in Philadelphia and Toronto. And the team was playing like absolute crap. And so everybody just didn't like me on the team right there. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, oh, please, like, I hope it's like, I'm thinking of like right in my head, like the player that I hope that Porsche belongs to, and then I'm thinking like the guys I really pray to God it isn't. And the first person I see is, as I'm inspecting the damage to the front end of this Porsche, is Jared Spurgeon and his dad, Barry. And I'm like, and Jared is just like almost looking at me blank face, like, oh my God, you just hit a teammate's car. And then he almost had a grin, like he was excited about it. And I'm like, I go to him, I'm like, do you know whose car this is? And in my gut, I'm just like, please say Nick Schultz or Matt Cullen or somebody. And he's like, I think that's Schultz's. And then he's like, yeah, that's Schultz's. I'm like, and then he looks at me and goes, I'll go get him. and he's like, it's like 12 o'clock, 12:30 in the morning, and he's running across 7th, and it is pitch black out. And he almost looked, it was like almost slow motion. I'm like, Spurge. And I'm now alone with his dad, which is even more awkward. And I go, Spurge. And he turns around and he goes like, what? In the middle of 7th. Like he could have been smoked by a truck. And I go, don't make a scene. You know, like, don't go in there and scream, Russo hit Schultz's car. Come out here. So I'm talking, now I'm having the most uncomfortable shooting the breeze with Jared Spurgeon's dad that you could ever even imagine.
So, like, you ever had a Porsche?
Yeah, I'm like, oh, how are you? What do you think of that road trip you were just on where the team just got destroyed? And so, sorry, I got distracted by a text that we'll have to deal with. That never happens. So all of a sudden, I hear like kind of like giggling as like two people are crossing the street. And then I look, and it's Schultz with a smile on his face, and he swore like in his heart of hearts that Spurge is playing a practical joke on him. And then he sees it, and he just looks at me, and he just goes, "Go home." And I'm like, Nick, I just kind of banged up. It wasn't terrible damage, but I'm like, it's a Porsche, and I scratched up his car, and he's just like, "Go home." And I'm like, "Are you sure?" And he's like, "Yeah, just don't worry about it. Go home." And so I go home, and for like the next month, I'm asking him every time, like, did you get it looked at? Did you get it looked at? He's like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I remember we were in Denver soon after that, and I told him, I'm like, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a month of immunity. Even if as long as you don't turn the puck over for the game-losing goal in overtime, you could do whatever you want bad in a game, and I will not even point it out. And but the reason why I bring this whole story up is that last night Koivu's party was at the Downtowner, and Nick Schultz is coincidentally here, and he remembers it, and he said, and I'm here with Spurge, who witnessed this transgression of mine, and Schultz had the joke. He goes, "Yeah, I rented a car for this event, but I got the extra insurance." So it was just really funny. So Nick Schultz, great guy.
Yeah. I love that story. Yeah. I got to do some business. I have a question for you about Gaborik and maybe another question about Koivu. By the way, we do have the microphone next to Brandon. If you'd like to ask a question, just come on up anytime, and we will get to you. I do want to thank our primary sponsor, Twill in the Dining Galleria, twillmn.com. I bought this winter cap. It's got fold-down ears. It's got insulation. It's the perfect winter cap. I love this there. Bought this shirt there. Bought these boots there. I spent, as I always tell Scott, I like going in and spending my own money. It's not a trade deal. I spend my own money there because I love the product and I love the people there. So twillmn.com. I'm here with my wife, Stacy. We went to Twill in the Dining Galleria the other day. We saw Scott Dayton, and I bought the nicest sport jacket I've ever owned, the most comfortable pants I've ever owned. They're Brax. A nice pair of loafers that I can wear to the ballpark. I think they're called Tracks. And I bought a bunch of Stenstrom short sleeve shirts to go with my Stenstrom nice dress shirts. And, I used to wear just disposable clothes. Now when I buy something, I buy it at Twill. I know it's going to last me the rest of my life, and it's going to be comfortable.
And on top of that, it's not just the best stuff you've ever had, but it's really everyday things that you can wear and that will fit all occasions.
Twill in the Dining Galleria, twillmn.com, Twill on Instagram. So Gaborik was giving you a lot of grief yesterday. I mean, we're all, like 8 of us walk up to Gaborik for this little powwow by the elevator in the press box, and he immediately just starts laying into Russo with a smile on his face, but he was getting into you. Yeah,
he did the old... Russo, are you still here? Are you going to write a positive story for a change or something like that? Yeah. It was great seeing Marion. Marion's last year, what's funny is like I almost wanted to say to him afterwards, and I saw him again down at the suite, and it was fine. But I did want to say, I'm like, I could off the top of my head think of about 20 great positive stories I wrote about you personally. Like one where I went to his home. It was a really cool story, actually. it was one of the first times I've ever gone to a player's home to do a big story, and he allowed me. He was lived by the Walker Arts Center at the time, and in one of those buildings where it was really neat. Like you take an elevator up and it opens and you're in his place. It was really cool. And I did a story. I should find it. It was a really cool story. I did a story like he had this like crazy like arcade game simulator where he could do Formula One racing in a simulator in one of his rooms and things like that. But the story was, it started, we went to, coincidentally, a D'Amico and Son right there on Hennepin in Uptown, or almost in Uptown. And I went with, I think it was Carlos Gonzalez. And
he was a photographer and the lead guitarist in my band.
Yeah, and Pavel Dimitra, and Branko Radivojevic. And it was like the Slovak Mafia, and Carlos and me. And we're in this D'Amico Sun at lunch hour on I'm pretty sure a weekday, packed. We have a photographer taking pictures, and nobody's even looking or bothering us. And I'm just like, wow, this is interesting. State of hockey, and Marian Gaborik and Pavel Dimitra, one of the greatest Slovak players ever, is sitting right here, and nobody's even bothering him. I just thought it was kind of neat. And then we went to his house and continued the story. So that's one positive story, Gabby, that I wrote about.
They only remember the bad stories.
And the other cool story, a player in the league called me today because he saw Dan Meyer's tweet about it. He saw it and wanted to know if it was real. If Gabby was being joking or not, and I said to him, I said, there was definitely something there. There's no doubt about it. All jokes have a little truth to it, right? And he's tense, and I'll tell the reason why he's tense after this. But this player said, you know what? The one thing I know from playing is you only read the stories when you screw up and not when you're getting praise. Right. A lot of times it's like, I'll score the game-winning goal in overtime and will not even think of picking up the paper the next day. But if I turn the puck over for loss, I want to see what that guy wrote about me. And he goes, I think Gabby was a lot like that, where he didn't read when he, had the really good games and things like that. But one of the other cool stories that I ever did that I still get goosebumps thinking about it is, and I wanted to do this with Ryan Poehling actually this summer, but it didn't work out that way. But after Gabby had the 5-goal game against the Rangers here at XL Energy Center, for Hockey News, it wasn't even for the Star Tribune, they wanted me to do sort of like the, I guess it was like first of its kind, the oral history. Wanted me to sit down with Gabby and what are you thinking on every one of the goals? And so I literally on YouTube on my laptop, we're sitting in one of the rooms next to the locker room at XL Energy Center. He and I are sitting down watching his 5-goal game. And by goal number 4, he's like almost in tears. Like it was, he was just so inspired about what he was seeing and, kind of going through it specifically. And so that's another positive story, Gabby, that I wrote on him. But the thing is that the last year of Gabby in Minnesota was a very tense season, tumultuous. You remember very early in the season, October, it was Cal Clutterbuck's NHL debut, and he never left because Gabby is playing the soccer hacky sack game and pulls his groin. And essentially knocked him out for most of the season. And then in December of that year, and I still remember this to today, sitting on my couch in downtown Minneapolis and talking to Gaborik on the phone, and then talking to Riseborough on the phone, and then talking to Gaborik late at night too, real tense back and forth. But Gaborik decided to go to Vail and have surgery on his hip, and this was something the Wild did not feel was a necessary operation. They felt he was doing it to improve his own stock going into his free agent year. And so there was a lot of tenseness, and I was writing the sort of the play-by-play between this with Riseborough and the Wild and Gabby, and that, remember, he's out until then March, and then so that created a lot of tenseness, and Gabby wasn't exactly pleased with how it was being portrayed to the fans here. And then he came back around the trade deadline. The Wild were sort of felt that he came back just to, again, show everybody that he could score to improve his value in free agency. Gaborik, if you look at that year that this happened in 2008-9, had an absolutely exploded those final 12, 13 games where he just, again, showed what kind of a world-class player he was. Riseborough gets fired. Then all of a sudden, the contract, the way that it's always been explained to me, is that the contract that Gaborik turned down from the Wild the summer before, which was something like 10 years, $80 million, all of a sudden his agents said to Chuck Fletcher, all right, we'll take it now. And Chuck's like, well, I can't give you $80 million over 10 years when you just missed 3/4 of the season. And then he left, went to free agency, signed with the Rangers, and then Chuck made one of the worst moves he's ever made as wild GM, and he compensated by going and getting Marty Havlat, which was just a disaster. But so that whole year, it wasn't happy. Gabby wasn't happy with just the coverage that he was receiving. So I think that still is in his head. There's no doubt about it.
I was lucky when I was covering the Vikings, mostly as a columnist, that I hit it off with Chad Greenway. He was always just a good guy to talk to. You could talk to him as a down-to-earth human being as well as being somebody you could interview a lot. So it's really cool that his company is now sponsoring this show and the network, Gray Duck Vodka. Homegrown vodka made from the fields of the Midwest. Sounds good to me. It's also known as Minnesota's vodka. And like I said, the cool thing for me is that I've always liked and respected Chad a lot. It's really cool to be working with him again. So check out this ad.
Free too, right, I think?
Pardon me?
I think it's gluten-free.
It is gluten-free, which I really appreciate.
When we asked you to get the duck out, wow, did you respond? Gray Duck Vodka is now in over 1,500 locations and expanding every day. This is Chad Greenway, and I just want to say thank you for making Gray Duck Minnesota's vodka. With the wonderful ingredients from Minnesota farmers, Gray Duck is gluten-free and has won 3 gold medals for taste. For all upcoming events and a list of locations carrying Gray Duck, head to grayduckspirits.com.
Please drink responsibly. Gray Duck Spirits, LLC, Lakeville, Minnesota.
Get the duck out.
I had Chad, I was filling in on a PA show a couple of weeks ago, and I had Chad in the studio, and it was really neat. That was really the first time I talked to him. He's just a good dude. Yeah.
I've also heard that he is a very accomplished youth coach. That he
girls basketball,
and that he
runs the Girls Basketball Association,
Yep.
Youth Association in Wayzata.
Yep.
Wayzata.
I think so.
Yeah.
My favorite.
Hopkins, Wayzata, same thing, right?
My favorite, it's Wayzata because I did a story on it once. My favorite Marian Gaborik memory was one of the first. It was the first Olympics I covered was Turin, Italy, and it introduced me to international hockey. It was fantastic. It was like you walked into this little, almost like a high school rink kind of setting, at least for the initial. I think the finals were held at a nicer rink, but the initial rinks were like a Braemar of Italy. You know, you walk in there, and everybody from Slovakia is wearing a funny hat. And everybody from Slovakia had like 4 beers. They were walking around. They looked like Santa Claus with 4 beers. And then I can't remember who they were playing, but the first game, they're down to one of their rivals, and Gaborik scores 2 breakaways in like the last 5 minutes to win it.
Well, that's what Gaborik was so good at. I mean, I still remember this one game that the Wild were playing up at Rexall Place. I think it was after Christmas, my first NHL season covering the Wild. And it was back when the league tried to do, they tried the whole 2 games in a row series thing. I don't know if you remember that. It was the first or second year. And so the Wild, after Christmas, I think, played consecutive games up in Edmonton. And they were playing like absolute, crap one night. And I think it was this game. And all of a sudden, third period, Gaborik just shows up, breakaway. Next thing you know, another goal. And that's what the Wild have lacked historically, is that one guy that with the puck on his stick can turn a game around. They haven't had anybody like him since, and so he was a heck of a player. Unfortunately, because of his health issues, he'll just go down as a player that probably didn't fulfill the expectation of what he could have been in the league. You know, he's going to go down as a great player. I mean, he has 400 goals, probably 800 points. Won a Stanley Cup in 2014 with the LA Kings, where he had 14 or 15 goals in that postseason. I don't know if you remember. And he was always a playoff performer as well, except for 2008 when the Wild got upset by Colorado. Him and Dimitri struggled, but because of his health, cutting a lot of his career short here. He just probably will not go down in history as one of this is somebody that probably had Hall of Fame talent and just didn't amount to that. But he had a really good career, won a cup, so I don't think he regrets not re-signing here.
Speaking of legacies, I wrote about this in today's paper. Koivu is such an interesting case. Incredible longevity, loyalty to one team, durability, great defense, great face-offs. Didn't have the great offensive stats, didn't have the high profile around the league. And I was trying to think if Minnesota has produced any other athletes that really fit that profile. I really couldn't think of any that were just like that, because usually to stay with one team for that long and have that high a profile, you have to be kind of a star level player. And Mikko was more of a reliable player.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, Mikko should thank Marian Gaborik for the whole way that thing all left.
Yeah.
Because by him leaving as Chuck Fletcher's first move, where again, it's not really his fault, but their first move where he got nobody for a big player, the next year, when Mikko was about to be up, what do? They get in front of it and give Mikko a 7-year deal at $6.75 million, probably overpay him, but it was all because they didn't want the same thing to happen again with the guy that was their captain. So one big reason why Mikko has spent his entire career here is because of the way the Marian Gaborik thing really broke down.
Right. No, very good point. Longtime sponsor, Fixology Repair. They've worked on Michael's stuff. Michael's bought stuff at their place. Mothership's out at the third floor of the Mall of America up by Nordstrom's. They have a place now near the Wild offices in St. Paul in the Skyway there. And they have a place in the Skyway in downtown Minneapolis, the one I walk by all the time, and I go in and check. Repairs, iPads, tablets, watches, watch repairs. They sell you watches. They have an incredible number of accessories. I highly recommend Fixology Repair, fixologyrepair.com.
Hi, this is John with Fixology Repair. For the better part of a decade, we've been privileged to serve you for all of your jewelry, watch, and smartphone repair needs at the Mall of America. Since Minnesotans largely hate going to the mall, we expanded 2 years ago to reach you in the Minneapolis Skyway. And now this year, we're pleased to announce we have a new location at Wells Fargo Place in the St. Paul Skyway. All 3 shops are equipped to help with your watch and cell phone repair needs on site, while all jewelry, computer, and game consoles will be completed at the Mall of America store. Please bring us your repair challenges, and don't forget to mention the Talk North podcast for a 10% discount on all of our services.
Chris, our longtime listener who comes to a lot of the shows, asked a question. He said, why did we go into sports writing, and why did we stick with it? I'll let you go first.
Why did I go into sports writing? I really don't know. I sort of fell into it. It's funny. I was down in Tampa the other day, and a lot of those sports writers that are down there are people that I grew up really with, that covering high schools and things like that. And one guy, Mark, who's the AP writer, we were talking about Steve Wine, who's the AP writer down in Miami. And when I was working at the Sun Sentinel as a freelancer, I would also string for Associated Press and run quotes and things like that. And Steve's still down there working. But that's how I sort of learned the business. And but I started at 15 years old, in June of, really young, and or I can't remember what month, but I announced the games at my high school. Then I befriended Dave O'Brien, who now works with us at The Athletic, covers the Atlanta Braves, and he got me a job at the Sun Sentinel while I was also working at the Boca News and things like that. And I just sort of never left the newsroom. It was just crazy. And so I still don't really know how it all happened, because I definitely didn't grow up wanting to be a sports writer. Although looking back on it now, there were a lot of indications that maybe this was something I wanted to do. Like when I had a paper route, I would read all the articles and things like that. But I started working in the office, answering phones, doing box scores from high school coaches and things like that. Then coincidentally, Dave O'Brien, I think, got sick, and I covered a Deerfield Beach high school football game. And the guy, Mark Renaud, had a monster game and broke Emmitt Smith's rushing record in the first half of that game. And so I called work and just never stopped writing. And so I don't know. But, it is. So I go to Raleigh the next game after the Tampa game, and there's this kid there that goes to NC State. And he was so excited to be in the press box and covering this Carolina-Minnesota Wild game. And he was excited to meet me because because it was somebody that he looked up to and things like that. And what it does when I see kids like that, though, is it does remind a old crotchety sports writer that sometimes doesn't get excited by going into a rink anymore. It reminds you of back in the old days when you were so excited to go and cover a game in a professional building and look up to the writers that you did back then. And it sort of makes you realize, that this is a pretty cool job that you have when you have days when you're just tired and grouchy and traveling all the time and things like that. So, I do love it. There are days where it gets there are days where you're like, God, it'd be nice to cover the Vegas Golden Knights. No, I'm just kidding.
We can still do podcasts when you work in Vegas.
Yeah, exactly.
And my story is really quick. I grew up just reading everything, and I read a lot of sports. I loved sports. I read Sports Illustrated and Sporting News, Sports Page every day, but I also read fiction, nonfiction, history. I was, back then I was really.
That's why you're such a better writer than me.
That's not true.
I don't read anything.
But I was really interested in writing. I was really interested in how you put a story together. And I always kind of, as a kid and a high schooler, I always thought, man, wouldn't it be great to write for Time Magazine or Newsweek or something like that? Because back then those were big deals. They're really not anymore. And then I went to college, and they sent me on an assignment to go cover a city council meeting in Columbia, Missouri for the paper. And I fell asleep, and I said, I'm not going to do that. And then I went and covered a high school football game, and it's so vivid. Mm-hmm. And that's sometimes we forget when you see 85 games a week. It's to go to a game and to try to describe what's happening and ask the right question and find out things that maybe other people don't know and profile a personality. I found that to be, not only fun, but it was like immediate gratification.
And that to me is the best part of this job. I mean, covering the games are great, but to me it's covering the personalities. Yep. I think that it's very important as a sports writer, even though sometimes the players probably don't buy it, that you have immense respect for the people that you're covering. And that's why it's I keep on saying it like a broken record, like why I just hope that Ryan Donato can get it together where he can stick here.
He's impressive.
He's just there are people like that you just man, this kid is just such a great person that you just I hope it works. And works where it's not where he just raises his stock and Bill Guerin trades him away, but this kid he's worked his butt off. He deserves for it to work, and so I think it's important that you respect the people that you're writing, and then that you are able to then, because of that respect level, write really good personality profiles and kind of tell the fans that don't get to chat over lunch with these players who this guy Ryan Donato is, or Kevin Fiala, or whatever. So I think that's a big part of it. But you mentioned high schools. To me, that's where all sports writers should get their start.
Everyone should cover high schools.
And it doesn't happen that way anymore. Young kids are just immediately covering professional sports and things like that, because really we don't cover high schools the way that we used to. But that's where that's where you work. I mean, where you're working those sidelines in a rainstorm and having to write these stories in your front seat of your car and sending it over a payphone or whatever. How I'm sure that's changed now, but I don't think there are payphones anymore. But you know what I mean? The people reading you are just the coaches of that team, the parents of those players, and the players. You're not on KFAN talking about it after game, or sitting next to LaPanta talking on FSN. So those are the ways that I think that you really learn the sport. And when I look back at my career, those are the times I had the most fun. I still remember all the high school stories that I wrote. I remember most of the players' names. I remember every single coach's name. I genuinely had a passion for it. And then it just kind of continued on to suddenly covering the NHL.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have a topic you want to get to, or should I go to Twitter questions?
No, and live questions.
And in live questions, if you have any, feel free to come up.
Just ready. Camping at the
pit. Oh, excuse me. She's loaded. Let's take care of her.
I think our first question needs to go to Allison
We'll take it.
Yeah.
Hey, let me remind everybody.
Caller.
Let me remind everybody that Michael and I get our insurance from the same person, Tony Hoagland, Hoaglund. His office is in Champlin, but you can work with him wherever you happen to be. Because I just use the app, I call, I text, very responsive, great guy, and has been a big supporter of this show and the network. Tony Hoagland, your State Farm agent.
Hi, Talk North listeners. I wanted to let you all know about State Farm's new program called Quotes for Good. We partner with local nonprofits to raise money for great causes. For the Russo-Souhan show, I'll be donating $16 to the Jason and Carly Zucker Give 16 campaign that benefits the University of Minnesota Masonic Children's Hospital. When you call in, be sure to mention the show so that we can track the donations. You can reach us at 763-421-4900 or check out our website at champlininsurance.com.
All right. Were you going to ask a question? No. Okay. All right. I did have a Twitter question. Okay. While Vicky makes her way up, Ryan Sonderson said, any chance the Wild pick up any free agents in like at Vanek? Do they even have the cap room? And is there anyone on the market you think would be a good fit if injuries continue?
I mean, that's a good question if injuries continue. They do have the cap room. I don't think, I think that Vanek is probably giving it another couple weeks before he just says, all right, kind of puts puts himself to pasture. But I know he's still working out and hoping that somebody's going to call him and things like that. And obviously he's right now local and would love to come back. But the Wild right now, seems like they're losing centers, as they speak. I will say this: it sounds like Stahl's okay. I did talk to Billy Guerin this afternoon, and knocked my. You're the only one that saw it. It's almost. Forget it.
It's good that you're turning red, though. That's a good visual.
But I did talk to Billy this afternoon, and Billy said that right now he's hoping to skate tomorrow. So, which makes me think that he doesn't have a concussion, that this might have been just a stinger. I mean, it was like shoulder, neck, straight onto that linesman's chest. So we'll have to see. I mean, Eric's one of those guys, you have to make him not play, right? I mean, the guy is so durable. You look at his career and how I think he's missed 20 games in his entire career, and a couple of those are healthy scratches to prepare for the playoffs. So this guy is just unreal. But so they've got to really watch him because he is the type of person that would play hurt. And then just hopefully he doesn't have a concussion. I mean, that's the thing you always worry about in these situations. Concussions do the symptoms a lot of times show up a couple days later. So he's just got to trust his own body tomorrow and make sure.
I thought he took a knee to the chest.
I don't think he got the knee. Okay. I think his head went into the linesman's chest. I don't think the knee ever got to him.
Hi, Vicky.
Hi, guys.
How are you?
Good.
So, how many people are you asking questions for today?
Just one.
Okay.
Just one. And actually, I think last night's game answers Philip's question.
Oh, okay.
So it is, do you see Minnesota's strength on home ice decreasing significantly when there is no longer Mikko to match up against the top lines?
Well, I mean, mostly Eric's next line is the line that's going up against top lines, especially at home. But if you look at that first goal by Anaheim yesterday, that was. I mean, it was a bad goal, obviously, that Kähkönen gave up, but that all did start with just a really bad shift by that line. So, but it just makes anytime you lose now Mikko and Eric Stahl potentially, just makes life way too difficult on everybody else. I mean, now suddenly you have Donato playing big minutes at a position that really is not his natural position in the NHL. You have Rask playing elevated minutes when I don't care how well he's playing, he's not a top six forward. And then you're moving Hartman to the middle, and so it is tough. But Mikko, it just hurts your depth overall. And the bigger one to me is still Spurgeon. I mean, it's a huge loss, and hopefully he can come back before Christmas. But I will say I shot the breeze with him 3 or 4 times yesterday, and he's not saying that he can't, but it doesn't sound like this is something that he trusts is, right now he's still wearing the splint, let's put it that way. So it doesn't sound like he thinks that he's going to be able to come back here in the next week or so, and it's been almost a week since they said he'd be out a couple. So
it was delightful to see Brian Rolston up on the screen last night.
Yeah, it's a shame he couldn't come.
Yeah,
he's still one of my favorite
When you talk
people.
to him next time, tell him we would love to see him.
No, he's absolutely one of my favorites that I ever covered, and it would have been nice. I know he wanted to come here really badly, and he was booked.
Yeah.
He had a hotel and a flight and everything, and then unfortunately just had to cancel.
I know Gaborik hasn't played the last couple years, but it looks like when you Google him that he's still under contract.
Well, yeah, because he's willing. He would like his money before he goes off in the sunset. He'll never play another game for them.
No,
he's one of those where he's hurt, but he's living in Trenton doing his own thing. I mean, he's just making sure he's just, it's not his fault. I mean, he's owed this money. He has 2 years left on his contract, but he's not in Ottawa rehabbing. He's in Trenton.
Well, it's him.
And same thing, Brodziak's got a year left on his deal, and he's done. He's never playing again, and it is painful watching him right now walk. I mean, I got to think he looks like he's got a degenerative back thing. A little sciatica issue going on right now, and just you could see it when he's walking. It's tough because this is somebody that went into training camp expecting to play and failed his physical.
Yeah. Well, I thought that Mikko tribute was wonderful. I really did.
Yeah.
And it was fun. We were watching them over in their suite, and I noticed that once the game started, Mikko did not take his eyes off the ice. He was. No,
I noticed that
so
too.
Like him.
Yeah. That's why last night on Twitter I was a little kind of hit and miss because I was down there a good amount trying to do that. Then I was running around because I wanted to get Brendan Manel's family before the game. But you're right. I mean, it's interesting. Miko, Jared. I mean, even upstairs, Patterin, Sealer. They're just fixated on the ice, which just shows you that they still are teammates even when they're hurt.
Yeah, it really was.
Or in Sealer's case, scratched.
Cool.
Yep.
All righty.
Thank you, Vicki. Appreciate it. And thanks, Philip. On Twitter from Zach Spicer, does Bruce's consulting option actually amount to anything if he's not retained after the season? I'm curious if it ever meant anything in the first place. It's clear he still wants to coach, even if it is in Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, but he's got to. I mean, the good news is that I don't know if we've mentioned yet that Pete DeBoer was fired since we started this podcast.
Oh, yeah, we haven't actually.
And the San Jose coach. So all of a sudden, there is a ton of coaching jobs available. That if Bruce isn't retained here at the end of the year, he's going to have options. So what it is it's an insurance policy for him. He knows he's getting a little money here in the next couple of years. He wants to coach. If he can't get a coaching job, I'm sure Billy Guerin would love to have him at his disposal in some capacity. But a lot of times, it's a new thing now with coaches the last 5-6 years where they're given these extra little sort of, almost severance packages here. So at a minimum, I mean, I could tell you I would agree with Jeff.
It was Zach.
Zach, sorry. I would agree with the fact that Bruce wants to coach, and so the only way it would amount to something is if he's not hired elsewhere.
From Benjamin Richardson, what should the Wild's plan to find a top-line center for the future be? Stahl and Koivu are in the twilight, and Cunner and Eck look more like good depth centers.
Opinion. It'd be easy to say the way to do it is to develop it, but that would absolutely take time. So it is an issue. It's been an issue for as long as I've covered this team that they haven't had a true number one center, and so we'll see. We'll see what they do. I mean, the problem that you have with situations like this is that the easiest thing is to go out here and acquire one, but that's where the Wild always get into their same old cycle, broken record type things of just overpaying 30-somethings or 28-year-olds. It's kind of why, I sat down with Billy Guerin, just shoot the breeze with him for an hour in Raleigh the other day on the day off because we were both pretty much bored. And we were talking about a lot of things, but the one thing I kind of got during that is that even somebody like Taylor Hall, that I'm sure loves the guy, but all of a sudden you acquire Taylor Hall at 28, and now you're giving a 7-year, 8-year deal to another 29-year-old at that point. And next thing you know, if you don't win the cup in the next 2-3 years, you're seeing his twilight. So the way to do it is to acquire young 20-somethings or pick some prospects and develop it. But again, that doesn't stop the short-term issue that the Wild are going to lack a top 6 center here in the next couple of years, or 2 of them.
A few minutes left in the show. Zeke Boyett and Lonnie both asked questions about Parise. I think we've covered that enough. We'll have a live question from Father here. He's going to take Michael's confession.
Father.
It's going to be fascinating. Let me just say my thank yous one more time to Tin Shed. It's Tin Shed Tavern in Savage. Check it out. Twill in the Dining Galleria. I highly recommend going by. The friendliest staff you're going to find. Very relaxed place. Just take a walk through and see what you can find. It's a great place to buy presents for the bald man in your life or any male in your life. Thank you to Gray Duck Vodka for jumping on board. Minnesota's vodka. Please check that out if you are a vodka drinker, even if you're not. Fixology Repair, fixologyrepair.com, and Tony Hoagland, your State Farm agent, Champlin. And thanks to everybody who came out again tonight. Yes, sir, Father.
So with one of the local reporters indicating the favorability of the Winter Classic coming here, I don't remember who was talking about that, but there was talk a lot about wanting to make this particular Winter Classic have a lot more activities and events that would be surrounding it due to the size of Target Field. What would be some of those types of events? I know for myself, I was thinking, of course, high school hockey is very popular, but I don't know that would draw in.
Yeah, usually stuff like that happens after the event. Concerts. They want to put some concerts at XL Energy Center where part of that revenue will go to the league and the team. Stuff like that.
Trampled by turtles?
That'd be a favorite of mine. And others as well. I mean, and then other things around, alumni games, festivals. They're just looking for other revenue streams to just make it a big event. So As I've been writing for honestly so long now, and wrote the other day is that this thing, unless it just implodes here in the next 3 weeks, is going to happen. I think that fans should be excited about it. It's going to be a really cool thing. The league is trying to figure out who the opponent should be. NBC is trying to figure out who the opponent should be if it happens. The favorites there would be St. Louis, Colorado. I think the Wild and even the league might really be interested in Winnipeg. The question is NBC interested in that? Dallas would have made a ton of sense, but they're hosting it this year. And, if you look at the history of Winter Classics, no team has been in 2 Winter Classics in a row. Chicago's another one that has a potential, but, I will say the Blues almost seem cemented at this point, but, maybe the fact that I wrote that story the other day and tweets and things like that maybe the NBC executives and the NHL will be like, wait a minute, not one person is saying I want them to play the Blues. I mean, it seems like everybody is saying Winnipeg, Colorado, Dallas. So maybe that'll change it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Father.
It'll be fun. I mean, the league, the team, Craig Leopold, Matt Maka has been working on this for years. And I think it's cool that the city of Minneapolis also and the Wild and the Twins had the league come in for the Final Four in the Super Bowl to really show the NHL that what Minneapolis could do for a huge event and things like that. And then the other thing is, to get back to the point of other events that could happen is that the team is based in St. Paul. So they want things in St. Paul to have it be a true Twin Cities Winter Classic, and so that even though the game would be played in Minneapolis, that they could have things at the X that week. So it'd be kind of neat.
Yeah, from Jared Mealy, which former players?
As long as Jim has to cover the game outside, that'd be kind of fun.
I will send an assistant. Which former players were slated to make the celebration last night but didn't? You mentioned Ballard.
Ralston was the only one.
Ralston's the only one? Okay.
Yeah.
And from Elliot, who do you think gets moved to make room for Kaprizov and Kovanov?
I mean, it wouldn't be funny if after a year of Paul Fenton trying to trade Jason Zucker that he's the guy. I mean, it really could be that guy. And then you move Fiala to the left side. It really is amazing what's happened here the last couple of months, which is also why you don't want to get ahead of yourself and say all is fixed, because there's still 4 points out of a playoff spot. But a month ago, Billy Guerin could have traded so many players off this team and was really tempted to do so. Yul Eriksson he had a lot of interest in. Fiala he had a lot of interest in. Donato's somebody that he's talked to other teams about. Probably Zucker and Brodin. But he resisted doing it then, and so far the team has repaid him by getting points in 12 of the last 13 games, but yet they're still outside the playoff picture right now, even though they have a couple games in hand on the teams ahead of them, although Nashville, I think, is a couple games in hand on them. Of course, Mary knew that to be true. She is now a Predators fan. I follow you on Instagram. You have some Predators jerseys.
She has one Predators jersey.
My favorite. Mary has an Instagram video when she was in Nashville getting autographs on the yellow carpet, and Granlund was about to walk right by her, and she's taking pictures of Granlund signing for everybody.
Is that why Granlund's hurt? Did you tackle him?
And then as Granlund was going by, boom, you stopped him. It was pretty funny. Granny!
Always lead with the shoulder.
Yeah.
Hit him right in the chest.
But frankly, a bad month, which conceivably could happen with these injuries, could put them back in the state where anybody could be traded again. So, I thought Fiala has struggled here the last 3 games. Hasn't been very good. So hopefully he doesn't take a further turn for the worse. But then you have guys like Zuccarello that are playing much, much better right now. Donato's playing really well right now. Brodin and Soucy continue to be really, really good. So we'll see how they continue to do here.
Yes, sir.
How you guys doing?
Good.
How are you?
Good. So my question is, with the coaching changes that we've seen in the NHL the last month with Babcock and what happened with Crawford and picking on players or kicking them and stuff. You've been in the league a lot. Have you seen this? Because you don't see it in the other. So far, we haven't seen it in the NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball. All of a sudden, we're seeing it in hockey that coaches have been abusive and stuff. And I remember when I was in growing up and in college and high school. I mean, yeah, the coach got on us, and I don't see anything wrong with that. What have you seen?
Well, I mean, I will say I've never witnessed any abuse from any coach in front of me, ever. I could tell you I've never seen it, and I covered Keenan. The only abuse I've ever seen is when my podcast partner will like knock me in the head, and I think that's really I think it's deserved. Unacceptable. Any lawyers in the house? Just no.
I hope not. God, I hope not.
But and in terms of abuse, the only abuse I've ever seen on the ice has been player versus player. Fights on the ice. I once watched a player kick another player in the face, and that was his last day. Maybe in the NHL, definitely with the Florida Panthers. Todd Gill in practice kicked Max Beerbrier. I cannot believe I remember that kid's name. Never played a game in the NHL. Kicked him in the face while he was stretching in practice, and oh my God, did I lose my mind? I destroyed Todd Gill, a decorated veteran who's in camp on a PTO. I mean, I destroyed him like I've never destroyed a player. I couldn't believe I witnessed it. He kicked him with the boot in the face, and that was it. Rick Dudley, I think, was GM at the time, got rid of him. Rick Dudley or Brian Murray, but I think I can't remember. But I've never seen coaches do it. So it's a day of reckoning. There's no doubt. I mean, these coaches are. I know there's certainly a lot of coaches right now that are probably thinking, "Oh my God, what did I do in the last 20 years?" And is it going to come out by a guy that now has social media that years ago didn't have the avenue to get this out? And so now the league's also come up with this sort of 4-point plan to try to make sure that these players, feel like they have a place to let this be known without them just going to Twitter and doing it. So they've created this hotline, which I don't know who's going to staff it or what it is, but they're going to create this hotline where if their players feel like they've witnessed or been the victim of anything that is not something that is tolerable in today's day and age or yesteryear, that they have some place that they can go with it, whether it's anonymously or something that they want to be attributed to them eventually publicly. So it's interesting. I mean, Pete Jabor was just fired, and both Pierre LeBrun from The Athletic and Elliot Friedman from Sportsnet had to tweet out caveats that say this is a hockey-related decision, and they didn't abuse their players or whatever the heck Jim Montgomery did down in Dallas, which obviously was major. So we'll see. I mean, it's just bizarre. There's no doubt about it.
If you sent a tweet tonight, we didn't get to it, please send them back to us next week. We tend to take a lot more Twitter questions when we do our studio shows, when we do our live shows, because we end up having so many live questions. Thank you all for being here. Once again, welcome to Gray Duck Vodka. Let me give you the website here if you want to check them out. GrayDuckSpirits.com is the website. Homegrown vodka made from the fields of the Midwest. Welcome to the network, Chad Greenway. But most of all, thank you all for coming out. Thank you for listening to the podcast. We do appreciate it. And what's most important about these nights is that you give Michael a round of applause so he feels good about himself as he leaves.
Positive praise. I want to
very important.
I want to like Koivu.
And thank you to Brandon Morton. And we will see you again here. We'll do another show next week. Our next live show is 7 p.m. December 30th at tinshedmn.com.
Positive praise like Gabrick. That's what I should have said.
Absolutely.
Only positive things written about Gabrick from now on.
That's right. So thank you all. Appreciate it.
Pretty little city built on a hillside. Music in the bars and fire in the sky. We went to the beach and it was covered in ice. And I used to call it home. So much coming out, there's nothing going in. I know that you feel like you're never gonna win. Oh, but the world won't forgive a winner.
From the kids to Aunt Sue, keep your whole family connected on all their devices with crowd-pleasing gig-speed internet from Xfinity. Now that's simple, easy, awesome. Go online, call 1-800-XFINITY or visit today. Restrictions apply. Actual speeds vary and not guaranteed.